But first, we're following the manhunt for the person responsible for hitting and killing an off-duty Wayne County Sheriff's Sergeant. You're looking at both ground video and video from Sky 4 of the scene this afternoon. That tops our news here at 6.
Deputy Lee Smith was a longtime veteran of the Sheriff's Department. He was out for a jog this morning at around 10:30 on Hines Drive, west of Middle Belt Road. As he was running on the side of the road, he was hit by what police are describing as a black Buick Enclave. That driver took off, and now police are desperately hunting for the person responsible. Meanwhile, we're learning more about the victim and his legacy. Rod Maloney joins us live tonight from Hines Park with a look at the man behind the badge. Rod, good evening.
Good evening, Kimberly. This is where the Deputy Lee Smith died, just past this sign here in the Sherwood Recreation Area. They've got the place marked up. You see the orange markings in the grass over there. And the situation is this. He was a longtime sheriff's deputy, and he was expecting to be retiring here very soon. He did not make it to retirement. But let's hear from the people who knew him about what they had to say about it. Deputy Lee Smith will long be remembered for his dedicated service. Shaken, Sheriff Benny Napoleon spoke about the officer he came to know well.
We lost a true hero, someone who was a valued member of this agency, and someone that will be sorely missed.
Sergeant Smith worked the road patrol in the Hines Park area, served on the Special Weapons and Tactics Team and Regional Task Forces. But this is how his fellow officers will really remember him. This is 10-year-old video.
Corporal Smith.
At the time a corporal on the mounted patrol, he brought the horses to what they call a blue mass, held at St. John's in Detroit. At the Livonia stables, where they keep the Wayne County Mounted Division horses, Smith is fondly remembered. Darrell Taylor worked side by side with Sergeant Smith for years.
He was a great officer, took his job serious, and good guy.
How sad is it today, knowing what happened?
It's very sad, very sad, very sad.
One of the other workers out here told us Smith watched over the horses with great vigor, including getting after employees who couldn't resist the temptation to feed the horses.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want to do that around him because you're not supposed to feed the horses.
So as much temptation, he would make sure you knew about it.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the really sad part. We talked about it a little bit. He had put in for retirement. Now, he put in for retirement last Friday. His last day on the job was supposed to be October 1st of this year, but he never made it. The Sheriff's Department does say that his family will be taken care of. His pension passed along to his wife and 28-year-old son. Back to you.
Heartbreaking for his family, though, Rod. And we want to reiterate, too, that the person who did that, this is still out there, possibly driving a dark-colored SUV. What else can you tell us? Is there a reward being offered for information leading to an arrest in this case?
Yes, there is a reward offered by Crime Stoppers. It's $2,500. There are people, I just want to stop here, there are people out here putting down a blue flag for a fallen police officer and also some flowers in the officer's memory. But yes, Crime Stoppers is saying $2,500 to anybody who offers information to them at 1-800-SPEAK-UP with information that could lead to the arrest or conviction of the person driving what we're now told is a black Buick Enclave with silver trim and silver door handles. So again, they'll be manning the phones looking to hear from anybody who might have seen this car that has damage on the hood or the front end. Back to you.
Hopefully somebody says something and speaks up. All right, Rod.
After the hit and run of Wayne County Sergeant Lee Smith, police are getting one step closer to finding the driver responsible. The Sheriff's Department held a press conference today releasing new images that could help crack the case. One of them, a picture of the vehicle they're looking for. It's here, the black Enclave with front end damage. 7 Action News reporter Amira David in Detroit with a closer look at the car they now believe hit the sergeant. Amira?
That's right, Dave. You said it. The car they're looking for, a black Buick Enclave with some pretty visible damage. And they want to get these photos out to the public as soon as possible because they say they can't get to the bottom of it without your help.
This net is closing fast. And as I said yesterday, it's much better if you turn yourself in than if we have to find you.
As family and friends mourn his death, the Sheriff's Department says they're closing in on the driver who took the life of a man who honorably served this community for nearly 3 decades. Take a look at these photos. This is the black Buick Enclave they're now looking for. Heavy front-end damage on the hood and possible windshield damage as well. Police say Sergeant Lee Smith was taking a jog off duty at around 10 in the morning yesterday in Hines Park in Westland when a car swerved from the east to westbound lanes, hitting him, then leaving him for dead. How and why it happened, still unclear.
We're not going to make an assumption whether it was accidental or intentional.
Authorities have been working around the clock to track down the car, saying it's been spotted at least once on Michigan Avenue in Middle Belt and Inkster. But now they need tips from business owners and homeowners in the area who have dash or security cam footage.
The littlest details, direction of travel, can be the thing that makes or breaks this.
The department says they're hoping for swift justice for a sergeant who was highly active, dedicated, and sadly had just put in his papers to retire on October 1st.
We're all hurting collectively. It's just nothing we expect to happen. We expect a guy that young to live another 20, 30, maybe even 40 years and enjoy his retirement.
Very sad, gone way too early. And I want to mention that Crime Stoppers has actually upped its reward because of some sizable donations trickling in. Yesterday, it was $2,500. Today, $15,000. And you can remain anonymous if you call in. Just call Crime Stoppers 1-800-SPEAK-UP. For now, in Detroit, Amira David, 7 Action News.
We need someone to make that call. Amira, thank you so much. A 19-year-old man is now charged in a hit and run that has left a Detroit police officer fighting for his life.
Jonathan Cole was arraigned today. 7 Action News reporter Simon Chowdhury shows you the new allegations prosecutors are making against him.
Prosecutors painted a picture of Jonathan Cole as someone who knew exactly what he was doing behind the wheel, and they say he tampered with evidence before turning himself in. 19-year-old Jonathan Cole fights back tears after hearing the allegations against him. He appeared in court for his video arraignment. The suspect is facing 2 charges after severely injuring Officer Fadi Shakur in the alleged hit and run. It happened Saturday morning shortly before 3. Detroit police officers were trying to break up a gathering near West McNichols and Stahelin Street.
Despite being told by a passenger in a vehicle, Mr. Cole, about the presence of a pedestrian in the roadway, Mr. Cole did not brake at all, did not swerve. That statement by the witnesses corroborated by the physical evidence and surveillance video capturing this incident on camera.
Prosecutors say Officer Shakur began making his way back to his car, and that's when Cole allegedly hit the officer. Officer Shakur joined the police department after graduating from the academy last August. This is video from that ceremony. Today, prosecutors asked the judge to set the bond at $250,000 cash, saying Cole is a flight risk since he allegedly fled the scene of a hit and run. But the judge set bond at $150,000 cash. Before making that decision, prosecutors described Cole as a monstrous criminal.
And only turned himself in after hours of self-preservation, flushing alcohol out of the system by drinking water and apple cider vinegar.
Even though Cole turned himself in, prosecutors say it was only after he destroyed evidence with the help of his mother and father. They also accuse him of drinking before the incident. Cole's next court hearing will be August 14th. As for the officer, we spoke with his family today, and they say he's still in critical condition. In Detroit, Simon Chowdhury, 7 Action News.
Accused of a hit and run that left a Detroit officer fighting for his life was in court today. Prosecutors asking the judge to set a high cash bond by painting a disturbing picture of the suspect. The Now Detroit Simon Chowdhury is live outside 36th District Court where the suspect was arraigned. Simon, what did prosecutors say about Jonathan Cole today?
Well, Carolyn, prosecutors call him a flight risk, and they say he knew exactly what he was doing behind the wheel. Now, Jonathan Cole was in court today for his video arraignment. The suspect is facing 2 charges after severely injuring Officer Fadi Shakur in the alleged hit and run. It happened Saturday morning before 3. Detroit police officers were there trying to break up some sort of gathering near West McNichols and Stahelin Street. Police say the officer was walking back to his car when Cole struck him at a high speed, and took off. Now, prosecutors today asked the judge to set the bond at $250,000 cash, saying Cole is a flight risk since he allegedly fled the scene of the hit and run. They're also accusing Cole's parents of trying to cover up evidence.
Defendant Cole drove off, accelerated immediately, and then together with his both mother and father worked to destroy and compromise evidence that would have been critical in this investigation and could have resulted in additional charges.
And bond was set at $150,000 cash. Cole will be back in court next week on the 14th. And coming up on Action News at 5, we hear what prosecutors believe Cole was doing before he turned himself in. And Carolyn, I just got a text message from the officer's family members asking about his condition, and they said that he is still critical, and it seems as though his situation is getting worse every day, asking for prayers and thoughts. I'll send it back to you.
I'm sure a lot of prayers and thoughts are going his way. Thank you so much, Simon, for the live report. We'll see you at 5. Now to
Alan, those charges are reckless driving, leaving the scene of the accident, and tampering with the evidence. Steep charges that could carry up to 40 years behind bars.
You're being charged with reckless driving causing death.
Here's the man police say was behind the hit and run crash that took the life of Wayne County Sergeant Lee Smith. 47-year-old Desmond Robinson now in custody 5 days after a sprawling manhunt for the driver of this black Buick Enclave. You can see that Enclave here with visible damage. The result, police say, of running down the sergeant while he was taking a jog off duty Tuesday morning in Hines Park in Westland. The driver swerved, police say, from the east to westbound lane, hitting Lee, then leaving him for dead. But then a breakthrough.
It was information that we received that led to the arrest.
Lee, a respected 26-year veteran of the force, was set to retire from the department in October. But instead, Robinson could be the one retiring to prison, charged with reckless driving, causing death, failing to stop at the scene of the accident, and tampering with the evidence. Police say the driver bought auto parts and started to repair the front end of the car, a point the suspect initially pushed back on.
Sir, excuse me. I did hear the facts as presented by the sergeant here, and there was evidence based on the charges to you that there was a possibility of tampering with the evidence.
Authorities say they also found evidence that Robinson was planning to flee the area.
This time I am going to remand you for further actions by the court system.
And as you heard there, he was not given bond, so he has to stay put in jail. We know that he's due back in court on August 30th. And I do want to mention, police tell us, or I should say sources are telling us, police are still investigating whether alcohol was a factor. We're going to continue to follow the story and bring you all the developments. For now, in Hines Park in Westland, Amira David, 7 Action News.
All right, Amira.
Planet of the Fakes and Pigstar HH News. Suspect in deputy's hit-and-run death faces trial next month. The man charged with killing Wayne County Sergeant Lee Smith in a hit-and-run accident in Westland last summer faces a jury trial in Detroit next month. Desmond L. Robinson, 47, is charged with 1 count each of reckless driving causing death, failure to stop at the scene of a fatal accident, and tampering with evidence. His trial is scheduled to begin Monday, December 10th, in Judge Kiana Lillard's courtroom in Wayne County Circuit Court. Robinson, of Detroit, was arrested by Westland officers in Garden City on the morning of August 16, 2 days after Smith, a 26-year Sheriff's Department veteran, was struck by a vehicle and killed while jogging along Hines Drive in Westland. A black 2012 Buick Enclave thought to be the vehicle that struck Smith was recovered in Inkster about an hour after Robinson's arrest. Smith, 55, who lived in Redford Township, is survived by his wife of 31 years, Simone Lloyd Smith, and their son, Aaron. He'd had a variety of assignments while with the Sheriff's Department, including in the jails, on mounted patrol, with the Special Response Team and with the Park Patrol, on which he'd served since 2009. He was also an instructor in defensive driving, horsemanship, firearms use, and other skills. He put a stamp on this department, WCSD Lieutenant Theodore Sims said during an August 23 funeral at Greater Grace Temple in Detroit. He raised the bar so high that when I say there will never be another Lee, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. More, jury finds doctor not guilty of failing to report patient abuse. More, police, man said he planned girlfriend's death. An around-the-clock investigation involving several agencies, plus a tip from a citizen made via Crime Stoppers, led police to Robinson, officials said at a press conference shortly after he was arrested. If found guilty of reckless driving causing death, Robinson could be sentenced to up to 15 years in prison. Failing to stop at the scene of a fatal accident is also a 15-year felony if it is found that the defendant caused the accident. Tampering with evidence is a 10-year felony if the underlying crime is punishable by 10 years or more in prison. Robinson remains in custody. His attorney, Susanna Kostovsky, did not return calls. Planet of the Fakes. And Pigstar HH News.
Good afternoon from our downtown studio. I'm Alicia Smith, and we begin this noon with the funeral for Sergeant Lee Smith of the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, who was killed in a hit and run on August 14th while jogging. The church is packed right now with people paying their final respects. We go live to 7 Action News reporter Bethany Moore right outside of the funeral there on Detroit's west side. Bethany.
Yeah, the Greater Grace Temple right here behind me is filled with family, friends, and a lot of law enforcement. We've had the chance to hear a couple family members speak about what a great deputy Sergeant Smith was. Now, the funeral began at 11 today. Earlier this month, Deputy Smith was off-duty jogging on Hines Drive in Westland when he was hit by a driver in an SUV that then took off. Now, 47-year-old Despawn Robinson has been charged. He's accused of reckless driving, failure to stop at an injury accident scene, and tampering with evidence. Police say Robinson was caught because of a tip and a reward. Now, at the funeral, his cousin spoke about how Smith tried to be the best father, husband, and law enforcement officer he could be.
Lee was a great man and hero who loved serving his community and protecting the lives of others. He was a highly trained officer who developed the skill sets necessary to become a department instructor. He was mad about work. He was mad about his community. He was mad about his family. But I don't mean mad in the context of upset or angry. I mean mad in the context of an acronym. He was making a difference. He was the real thing. His personality was like VO5 hairspray. He held up in all types of weather.
Now, the interment will follow at Detroit Memorial Park West Cemetery in Redford. You can see now there just a line of motorcycles from law enforcement that are going to be escorting him to that cemetery. But not only that, if you can follow me around this way, you can see we know that Smith was a very avid motorcycle rider. And these are all some motorcycle riders that have come from across the state to also escort him to his final resting place. So a lot of emotion out here as people remember that great man. Reporting live, Bethany Moore, 7 Action News.
Case number 18-6931, People versus Desmond Robinson. The matter here today for sentencing.
Good morning, Your Honor. Hattie Appleseed on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Mr. Appleseed.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mike Rattay and Jeff Osmond on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Good morning. Today is the date and time set for sentencing. I have an opportunity to review the pre-sentence investigation report with your client.
We have reviewed it, Your Honor. There are a couple corrections to be made by agreement to the pre-sentence investigation report guidelines.
Okay, not the guidelines, just the body of the report for now.
Everything is correct in there. There's no additions, corrections, or deletions.
All right. Is there anything that you believe needs to be corrected in the body of the report on behalf of the people?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. And I understand you all have reached an agreement as to what needs to be changed in the guidelines.
That's correct.
All right, you may.
Your Honor, after a discussion with counsel, the modifications to the guidelines would be as it relates to the PRV score. PRV 5 was scored by the probation department at 2 points. I believe the correct calculation for PRV 5 should be 5 points, given the fact that the defendant does have 2 misdemeanor convictions.
Do you all agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
That would then take the total PRV to 25 points, Judge.
All right.
As it relates to the offense variables, you know, we do have some members of Sergeant Lee's family here, Lee Smith's family here. OV5, then I would be arguing after that, Judge, should be properly scored at 15 points, and that's psychological injury to a member of the victim's family.
I'm going to score it. I think it's no question under the circumstances that there would be psychological injury to the victim's family.
And OV12, Your Honor, I believe was improperly scored at 10 points. That should be properly scored at 0 points.
Do you all have any objection?
No, Your Honor.
No,
All right,
Your Honor.
that makes his OV score 60 as opposed to 55, taking him to a level 6 as opposed to a level 5, and making his score 43 to 86 months, which is what you all had originally agreed the guidelines were. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Now, normally, under these circumstances, I would allow 3 members of the decedent's family to speak. And my understanding is that there are going to be 2 people speaking today?
My understanding is that there are 2 people that are going to speak today.
All right. You can have a seat for me, Mr. Robinson.
Trustee Ray. All right.
Is there a Kleenex over there? Is there any over there? No? It might be right here, Mr. Evans. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please spell your first and last? Whoever's speaking first, one at a time. If you could please spell your first and last name for the record.
My name is Simone Smith. That's S-I-M-O-N-E. Last name is Smith, S-M-I-T-H.
Whenever you're ready.
On June 20th, 1987, we took our vows until death do us part. Never in a million years would I think that would only be a short 31 years. In those 31 years, we made promises to love one another, to work hard, and retire young. I retired first, but Lee wasn't quite ready yet. He had to work and train and work and teach, and he needed to make a difference in a few more lives. And then, on Tuesday, August 7th, 2018, we walked into the Wayne County Sheriff Retirement Office and signed those papers. And he turned to me and said, "I'm really going to get on your nerves, and you're about to get so sick of me." Then 1 week later, on Tuesday, August 14th, our dreams came to an abrupt end. My life will never, ever be the same. He is not here to get on my nerves. I won't be able to get sick of him. There's no more jokes, no more hugs, no more kisses, and I will never be able to touch those dimples and see that infectious smile. Lee's dedication to his job and training others took him away from home for the past 20 plus years. But he loved what he did, and he did what he loved. And yes, he spent a lot of time away from our family, but he promised me, when I retire, I'm all yours. It was finally my time. My time had come. He was going to be all to myself. We sat in the backyard, drinking coffee and making our plans. But now all I have are wonderful memories. I must start this new journey of my life without him by my side because of your carelessness. And that, Mr. Robinson, was not a part of our dream. Because of you, I have this emptiness in my heart. Because of you, Tuesdays are filled with sadness. Because of you, I scream and cry because I miss him. And because of you, I must live this life without him.
No, I believe we have another person from the family.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you please spell your first and last name for the record, please?
Johnsmith. I'm Lee Smith's brother. I had prepared a video that I animated, and I wanted to show it. It was only a minute and a half long, but I can't do that but I'll just briefly talk about what's in the video.
Who told you you couldn't do it?
It doesn't matter now. They said I couldn't do it.
Well, who said that? Nobody asked me.
It probably didn't get to your level. I think they probably kiboshed it.
Did you bring it?
Pardon me?
Did you bring it?
No, I don't have it with me. I posted it on Facebook, so.
I would have let you play it.
Yeah,
We
sorry.
can put it right there on that screen.
No, that's okay. It's been a while since my brother was killed by a hit-and-run driver. The driver made a decision before he got behind the wheel to drive a weapon. And whatever condition he was in at the moment, we don't know. Because he decided to flee the scene of the accident. And I can see Lee right now jogging, saying, "Stop! You see me? Stop!" That instant, he was gone. No skid marks, no sensitivity, because it was admitted that he knew he hit somebody. And then covering up the crime, it only made me think, what would Lee say? He said, be a damn professional. Handle it the way the law is set up to handle it. And I stand here today, I'm a little disappointed because I believe there should be a stiffer penalty for those who commit a crime, hit and run, what have you, knowingly distracted at the wheel somehow, some way, fleeing the scene, trying to cover up evidence. I don't understand the law on how it's set up now. And based on the history of hit and run drivers, they get away with murder. And we have to live the rest of our lives when it hits home. It hits home. I called Lee at 9 o'clock that Tuesday. Our normal time. He didn't pick up. He was dead at about 10:15. Just like my sister-in-law on Tuesdays. It's tough. So that scene became a crime scene on Hines Drive. My goal in life right now, one of my goals is to work with the legal system to have stiffer penalties that needs to happen. I understand somebody jaywalking at night with no reflectors on and the car hit them and then they stop to aid the person. That's different. But we had a situation where a large vehicle, no vehicles around. There was not a one vehicle around. And this man, my brother, he's not even working that day. He decided to feed his horses, his babies, while he's jogging. Simone, myself, and some other family members were planning for his retirement party. So for a few years, I was riding with Lee, getting video done. We're laughing, we're joking. We go to a restaurant, this lady, she's sitting over in the corner crying, talking about her husband abused her. Lee was always aware of his environment. He goes over there, walks by, tell the waitress, I want to pay for their meal. And then she tried to catch him, brought a smile to her face. He did that all the time. All those little things that Lee always did. We don't know who's drunk, drugs, distracted, texting, whatever. It's distracted driving. There has to be a penalty, a deeper penalty, stronger than a slap on the wrist. I'm sorry. All I gotta say is from the class of Sergeant Lee Smith, beloved husband, brother, friend of many, teacher. He was my teacher. Until the day I die, I'll never give up this fight. I'm pursuing tougher penalties because it's a joke. I posted that video and it was a little more watered down than what I'm saying now, but it has the same elements. And all I want people to do is believe and trust and know. Understand, what condition are you in when you get behind the wheel of a vehicle, thinking that you can just go a mile away or two, and you can change the life of someone. Devastation. So like Lee would say, don't be angry. Don't try to hurt anybody. Make a difference. Be a damn professional is what he always told me. Be a damn professional at whatever you do. I just hope people consider how they feel and what condition they're in when they get behind a weapon, a vehicle. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Abuzaid, is there anyone else speaking on his day?
I don't believe so, Judge. I believe that's
all right, come on back up, Mr. Roberts. Is there anything else you'd like to say on behalf of the people requiring post-sentence in this case?
I don't think I could have said it any better than the speakers that you heard this morning. So I know it's okay.
Who's speaking on behalf of the defendant requiring post-sentence?
Well, Your Honor.
Okay, we still have an opportunity to allocate, but which of you two?
Well, I'll just make a couple of quick comments, Judge, and then we'll let Mr. Robinson say what he has to say. Your Honor, as we've already indicated, we reviewed the pre-sentence report. It's accurate. And we would simply ask, Your Honor, to sentence Mr. Robinson pursuant to the cop's evaluation that we all negotiated and discussed and everything like that. And I think that Mr. Robinson is very remorseful, and he is very sorry for what had happened, as evidenced by the fact that he pled guilty straight up to all 3 counts. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Robinson because he's the one who has to apologize to the family and to the friends of Deputy Smith.
All right. Mr. Robinson, is there anything you'd like to say on your own behalf before I'm post-sentence, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd just like to apologize to the family, friends, and loved ones of Mr. Smith. Lord knows this was truly an accident, and this was done with no malice intent. I had a medical condition, and that's the reason why the things happened the way they did. And I'd just like to send my deepest condolences.
Mr. Smith, I'm going to stop you right there. If you're going to say something, you need to speak the truth. A medical condition might have caused you to hit the sergeant, but a medical condition didn't cause you to do what you did after the fact. So if you're going to say something to this family, it needs to be the truth.
You're right, Your Honor. Well,
otherwise, you're just pouring salt in the wound. If you're going to accept responsibility, accept responsibility. Don't make excuses.
I'm not making excuses, Your Honor. I'm just trying
try
to
again.
elaborate on what happened
All
that
right,
evening.
go ahead. I'm going to let you finish.
Or that morning. So, it was, at that point, when I noticed I hit someone, Your Honor, I knew that I had to turn myself in. And you can't really say what you would do until you put in that position. And I sat there and I went through this, played it 1,000 times in my head, and it never played out the way that I intended to play out. So, that being said, Your Honor, I just apologize, and this was done with no intent. I mean, it was truly an accident.
All right. Well, under the circumstances, you know, I think this is a very difficult case. And as I've said to you before, Mr. Robinson, what makes this most terrible is what you did after the fact. You know, accidents happen. People drive nowadays, and they're not paying attention to what they're doing. And we don't know whether you were under the influence of something. I don't know what caused the crash. that took Sergeant Smith's life. But what I do know is that the things that you did after the fact are really what, to me, aggravated the circumstances in this case. You know, taking bleach, trying to clean up things, trying to destroy evidence. To me, that was the act of a coward and someone who is afraid to take responsibility for what it is that they've done. And I think part of what drove your cowardice was the realization of who exactly it was that you hit. And I think at one point when you pled guilty, it was when you said, I believe, and I could be wrong, I remember you saying that once you saw the media coverage about exactly who it was that you had hit and what you had done, that's when you went into panic mode and started to try to cover up your tracks. And I think that for me, that's one of the most egregious parts of what you did. You know, unfortunately, the reality is that I see a lot of these cases where people get in accidents, they flee the scene, they hit people, whatever. It happens a lot of times, more often than most people would think. But this is the first time that I've seen an instance where after the fact, so much was done to try to cover it up. And to me, that is one of the things that's most egregious about the facts and circumstances of this case. I don't know what caused you to flee the scene. Maybe you know that you were drunk and you don't want to get caught drunk, and so you tried to leave so you could cover that up. Maybe you just panicked. I don't know. I recently had a case where a woman hit a child, and she did the right thing. She stayed at the scene. She even took the child home to try to get help because he wouldn't get in an ambulance, and she ended up getting attacked by the person, his family. Well, that wasn't the case here because this was in a desolate area where there was no one around. And in essence, it's almost like, you know, what you did by fleeing, leaving someone on a dark road where there was no one else around. It was almost as if you left the person you hit to die. And that, you know, is something that I think a reality that you have to live with for the rest of your life. You were there, you saw what you did, those images are in your mind, and they're never going to go away. Until you truly come to peace and speak honestly with yourself about what you did, why you did it, and what caused you to be in that condition that you would hit someone and keep going like that, and then to try to cover it up. Now, I'd like to say to the family, the Smith family and friends, there's no amount of time or anything that will bring back your loved one. And, you know, it's hard because you look at all of the time that you spent together and all the time you were hoping to spend together, and that's gone now. But hopefully you'll find some comfort and peace in knowing all of the lives that he changed, all of the officers that he mentored, all of the people that are still here in the community doing great works because of him, because he inspired them, because he taught them how to lead, because he taught them how to work. And you know, even though he's gone, all of these people are an extension of him, and they're going to continue to do his great works when he no longer can. That legacy is something that most people are not fortunate enough to leave behind. And as tragic as his death is, and as tragic as the circumstances of his death are, hopefully, it can be a catalyst for change so that penalties can change. You know, my job is to apply the law as it's written, not the law as I wish it to be. And my job is to apply the law fairly and equally without regard for whom the crime has affected. And if I did anything different in this case, that would be wrong. So when I fashioned my COPS evaluation, I looked historically at all of the sentences that I've given in similar cases since I've been on the bench. I also, looked at the defendant's prior criminal history, and I looked at the facts and circumstances of this case. I looked at the fact that the defendant expressed remorse and was prepared to plead guilty and accept responsibility, which I hope means that there's some likelihood for rehabilitation for you, Mr. Robinson. I don't know what happened in that first case way back when you were charged with murder and that case was dismissed. I don't know what the facts and circumstances were of any of that stuff. But at some point, Mr. Robinson, you have to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what is it about the way that I have been living my life that causes me to repeatedly find myself in circumstances where I've been accused of and now convicted of taking someone's life? And you have to really take a long, hard look at yourself. And you're only 47 years old. Even if you serve the maximum sentence that's applicable under this case, you will still be a relatively young man upon your release. And you've got to do something different. You've got to do something different. You could have been killed that night. But for some reason, your life was spared, and you have to come to terms with what it is that you've been doing and what it is that you're going to do going forward, so that you don't keep finding yourself in these situations where you're teetering on the brink of disaster. At any rate, I see no reason not to follow my statement of preliminary evaluation of sentence. In this case, it will be the sentence of this court that you'll be remanded to the Michigan Department of Corrections for no less than 4.5, no more than 15 years. You have 201 days credit from the time of your arrest until the time of this conviction. You must pay $204 in state costs. You must pay a crime victims assessment amounts of $130. You must pay $1,300 in court costs. Restitution will be determined upon submission of appropriate documentation by the Smith family. You have 42 days from today's date to seek leave to appeal your conviction to a higher court. Sir, because this was a guilty plea, you do not get automatic appellate review of your conviction. You would have to request leave from the Court of Appeals, which they may or may not grant. You have been handed notice of your appellate rights. Once you have read it and understood it, you should sign it. If you would like a lawyer to assist you with your appellate efforts, you will have to notify us in writing. If there's nothing further, yeah, they're consecutive.
What's the date? What's the date? Sign below.
If there's nothing further, that concludes this evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, he signed his appeal rights.
All right, great.